GM, guys.
GM.
What's up, Casey?
What's up, Karen? How are you doing?
Well, yeah, we are back with a new show format. But before we go on to explaining why, I mean, the ABC doesn't change. So the ABC is still Asia-focused, builder-friendly, and cool vibes only, especially it's around builders, and it's still a builder show.
Yeah, that's right. That's the main point. And it's good to be back. I don't know if we want to do some chit-chat at the beginning, but I think it's interesting. Where are you right now, Karen?
I'm in Taipei right now, and I'm going for NFT Taipei this week, actually today. But I think it's the reason why we want to do a new show format is because we want the show to be evergreen. It's not like we're going to talk about the market every week, so it's like irrelevant the next day. And we want it to be something that you will still listen to like the next month or next year, and it still be relevant.
Yeah, that's the main point for the new kind of format. But before we begin the new format, let's hear a quick word from our chairman.
What is discussed on the GM show is not investment advice. We may or may not have ownership interests in the projects we are talking about, but this is not investment advice in any way, shape, or form. And this is not Sir David Attenborough.
All right. We'll keep those things in all the time. So basically, I think main point about this is, as Karen said, is that we want this to be an evergreen show. We actually want to try and compile a lot of this stuff that we're doing into a maybe a book or maybe a longer form kind of content thing where people can refer back to, because we think there's not enough content out there for Web3 builders and people just interested in seeing what's happening actually here. And it's hard to find, content in a podcast or a live stream later on. So I feel like this is something we're looking at doing. We're still going to bring on amazing guests who are building amazing projects from the States, from Europe, from Asia, to talk about how they're building in this Web3 environment. And we thought we'd start off with somebody we're all very well acquainted with. And maybe, he's always joking around, right? So we thought maybe let's bring him on and get some serious answers from him. So we're going to play this out. Even though you know who he is, I'm going to introduce him like you've never heard of him before, which is, I know, impossible. So our first guest for our first new format show is Ray Chan. Ray Chan, of course, is the CEO and co-founder of the Hong Kong-based entertainment website 9gag and the Web3 venture studio called Memeland. Since launching in 2008, 9gag has accrued millions of followers across various social media platforms, and most recently hitting nearly 4 million followers on Facebook's newly launched Threads in record time. Ray himself has over 2.3 million followers on X as of this recording of his 9gag CEO account. In April 2022, Ray announced Memeland, 9gag's move into Web3, and subsequently launched his inaugural NFT project, You, the Real MVP, the Potatoes, and the Captains, and of course, most recently, the launch of their own token, Meme Coin. Memeland itself never has a roadmap, but Ray and his team have been sharpening and updating strategic decisions. These objectives represent the emphasis for their next phase of development. They are product, event, NFT, integration, and swag. I don't know what those first 5 letters spell out, but you can probably guess. Ray's underlying aspirations is to not only set out to empower creators and fans with blockchain technology, but to sustain and advance Memeland as a community company for the long term. Welcome to the GM show, Ray Chan.
Hi, Ray.
GM.
Yeah, we hear you speak a lot in our show and also like in different places, but we don't really know who you are and what makes you Ray. Like really the personal side of it. So I feel like this new format, it's like how people would really try to, know you better.
Yeah, I think I want myself to be the guinea pig, right? Because I feel like if it sucks, right, then I suck, right? so we can polish it before we invite the guest next week. Yeah, so let's do it.
Sure. So we have a warm up session with a couple like quick question, quick answer. It's like the first question is, what's the one app you have on your home screen that not many people do?
There's an I use iPhone. There's an app called Streak, Streaks, which allows you to create some habit, and then you can track how many times that you can do it. Yeah, within the set period of time. Yeah, that's the one that I have. Yeah, I actually leads poop as one of the tasks, so that I can track my bowel movement. Yeah, to make sure that I have a good habit on
So
that end. Yeah.
So you're really in the toilet while you're on Discord, basically.
Sometimes, yeah, I do my best.
Is that a paid app or is that a free app?
I think it's a pay app. Yeah, I think good
Okay.
apps are usually pay, and I don't want to see ads this day. I'm rich enough to pay 1.99, right? So I pay. Yeah, finally.
All right. The next question, warm up question is, what is the book or books you've given most as a gift and why? Since we're coming up to Christmas season, this is a good question.
I actually bring the book with me because I'm very seriously preparing for the questions. Right. This is actually not a book, but a set of books. It may not be the best gift for Christmas, but I think it's a gift that everyone may need. Especially when they get older. It's the book series is called Journeying Through Grief. This is like the guidebook, right? But actually, it's like a 4-book series. Yeah. So what it is about, the first time I got this book was when my first son passed away, right? And then I received a package from one of my friends and also a mentor. Right. And then in that book is the first book, the book 1 of this series. Basically, it's a book issued by a church, and then they will send you a book after you lose someone that you love, and then after 3 months, it will send you the book 2. So that kind of like help you to guide you through the journey of grieving. Yeah. So that's one of the book that I send, because the older that I get, maybe friends of friends. They lose someone that they love. As a guy, I don't know how to comfort them. Right. I think it's also kind of like hard for me to cry with them, even though sometimes I do want to. Right. So what I do is I give this book to them. Right. I'm too lazy to kind of like do it like every 3 months, so that I just give them the whole book. Right. But I feel like that this is a good and very short book to kind of like guide you through that difficult process.
Right. So, while we're talking about books, like what are 1 or to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life?
I mean, the book, I think I make it quite perfectly that I'm a Christian, right? Since my son's passed away about 5 years ago. Right? So I have to say Bible is one of the books that influenced me a lot. Right? I actually read it every day, a small section every day, so that it reminds me of the teaching, right, of Jesus, right? I think that's book 1. And then the book that I also find it very influential is Principles by Ray Dalio. Right. It's I think it's thicker than the Bible, right? But it's a good one that has like another rate, much better and much influential rates, life lessons on life, on work, right? And how to make decision, right, based on principle, but not like, okay, make decision every time on spot, right? So this is also another book that influenced me a lot, right? And then the third book that I also like is the book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Yeah. It talks about a lot of like hacks on why or how to set up good habits. You for example, one of them, the topic it mentioned is called 2 minutes rule. Right? It's really hard to set up a habit, right? So people always have big goals and stuff, but the 2 minutes rule means that, okay, you just do it. Do something like in 2 minutes, right? The simplest form. If you want to run, right, for a week, right, maybe you just change your clothes, right? Then you consider that the habit is done, right? By doing that, you gradually can build up the habit. So this is also a book that I recommend, and also I like it a lot.
Great. Okay, those are cool warm-up questions, but now we're going to get a little bit more personal. and see, because as a founder, we want to know, like, well, how did you get to this point? So the first question in this segment is, what was your first job?
My first job is actually working as a compliance trainee at a bank in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We discussed this, right? We want to have these questions so that we can add more dimension to the founder, to the interviewee that we talk to, right? Because when you talk to some guys, it feels like every time they're like a successful person, right? At least on the surface, right? But when I watch some interview, right, of some Hollywood movie stars, right, I think a lot of them, they actually did something really, really, I would say, different, right, from what they are doing right now. I remember the lead character of Memeland, right, John Hamm, right, he mentioned that he was like a waiter for a very, very long time until he almost like 30 years old, something like that, right? So I think seeing that can kind of like give you a more like personal side of what that guy is, right? Because I studied law in Hong Kong and I didn't study really, really hard. No, I didn't study well. I studied hard, but I didn't study well, right? And then, but I still wanted to become a lawyer, so I joined a bank, joined the legal and compliance department at the time. I worked there for like about 3 months. No, is it? Yeah, I forgot. 3 months. It's like such a long time ago. Yeah, and that was my first job. I feel like, I don't want to do this job for life. That's why I changed my job.
Okay. The next question is, what does a normal day look like for you? And like, what's your daily routine? Or do
Besides
you have
pooping?
Yeah, my my daily routine is actually revolve around my son these days. I think depends on whether he has like play groups in the morning. Right? If he has play groups, then basically I wake up at 8:15, 8:30. Right? And then, of course, I have to do my daily business first, and then I will drive him to the play group. Right? I usually take turns with my wife to join his play group for 1.5 hours. So in total, basically, the mornings is spent with time with him. And then after that, I will have lunch with my wife. And then after that, around 2 p.m., I started to work till like 8, right? And have a quick dinner, right? And then also work a little bit more, and then sleep. Yeah, I think if the times allows, I also watch some Netflix, maybe Disney Plus and stuff with my wife. Yeah, and also walk our dogs at around like 9 p.m. Right, so usually these days I sleep at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Yeah, so something like that. If my son doesn't have playgroup in the morning, right, then I actually move my working time in the morning. Yeah, so for example, like today, GM show, right, and also today my son doesn't have a play group. That's why I just I can join the show. Yeah, so that's my daily routine. It's pretty boring, right? But I like that it is quite regular.
Yeah. All right, then from that, what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
I wouldn't say it's absurd, but I have a habit of, whenever I go out to eat, right, if possible, right, I want to clean up the table before I left the table. I feel like something that feels polite.
You don't mean the food. You're not clearing all the plates. You're actually clearing the table.
I mean, just put the tray into the right places, right? Something like that, right? And so that I feel like, okay, I finish it. I make it back to the original state. Yeah, before I leave. I feel like part of it is because when I was like younger, my vocation, my summer job was actually at fast food restaurant. So I feel kind of like connected to the staff there. I want to make sure that, okay, I didn't make I don't make a mess when I leave. Yeah, so I put the tray back, and then I put the chair back, and then I leave. I mean, it's not very weird, right? I see quite a lot of people do that, but this is something that I feel like I want to. It's almost like a ritual in a way.
Yeah. I want to add to that because I think it's funny because you mentioned that, and that's a Hong Kong thing. Right? I think people who are listening to this that are not in Hong Kong, like in the States, people in the States actually take their trays back to the garbage. Like that's like a normal thing to do. But in Hong Kong, when I first came there, people just left it all on the table, which I thought, wow, that's crazy. It's like, what about the next person? Like, you think that McDonald's is fast enough to clean the tables, but they're actually not, right? So that is something that's a cultural thing that always surprised me.
Yeah, that's why I feel like this is not very unusual, right?
Yeah.
But unusual in the place that I live, right?
Yeah.
But not
Right.
unusual in other places. Yeah, and yeah, so yeah, that's why I feel like it's good to have some context. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're at home, like, are you the ones that like clean the dishes after a meal?
Most of the time, yes. Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I don't know whether I should say sadly, right? But most of the time, yes. Yeah.
Well, somehow it's like therapeutic, like of cleaning dishes.
Oh yeah, I mean when we have a helper, right, and when she's on leave, I'm actually become the helper, right. So I clean the dishes, I clean the milk bottle, I share that on X, live streaming that one time before, right. I clean quite fast. Yeah, I'm quite a good cleaner, so I'm not afraid that I lose my job at Memeland. Yeah, I know that I can make a living.
Well, in the last few years, what new belief or behavior or habit has most improved your life? Well, besides the whole dishwashing thing.
The dishwashing thing, I think I started very young because of my family requested us to wash the dishes ourselves. Yeah, so I think that part is not some new habits, right? But in the last few years, I think one of the biggest habit is probably right now I'm a Christian, right? I think for about 5 years, right? I think it changes how I think about stuff, how I plan about my life quite a lot, right? I'm not saying that okay, I'm totally brand new and stuff. Yeah, but I feel like the mission of life and also my priority in life has changed quite a lot. Right? And I feel like on one hand it's because of the belief, on the other hand it's because of the experience. Yeah, so I feel like I don't feel lost that easily. At the same time, I also feel more humble because in the past I feel like, hey, I'm a startup founder, right? Problem solving is basically my daily job, right? There's nothing that I can't solve, right? If I give enough effort, if I give enough time, if I give enough resources. But turns out there are so many things that no matter how smart you are, you can't solve it, right? Especially in life, right? You can't really cure a lot of disease, right? You can't bring back the loved one that you lost, right? I think at moment like that, you feel that you are kind of like powerless, right? But how can you cheer yourself up, right, when you feel powerless, right? I feel like having faith, I think that helps me a lot because I know that okay, this is part of our life, this is part of our own journey, right? Everyone has their own race, and everyone's journey may be different, right? But they finish their job. It's kind of like, it's almost like playing a game, right? You can play an RPG, it takes hours, but you can also play a game of like NBA 2K, it takes like 10 minutes, right? But when you finish the game, it's a good game. Yeah, I think that's how I see, that's how I change my view, and because of that, I don't feel that much stress because I feel like okay, everything I can I have someone to rely on. Yeah, in the past I was almost okay, I have to rely on myself. Right now I know that okay, I have a law. Yeah, so that I feel like it's I feel relaxed. Yeah, more relaxed. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is next question. I think it's difficult for you specifically. So you have a brand new baby, you have a brand new kind of new company with all this new meme coin launching. So you must be extremely overwhelmed with all these responsibilities. So I want to know, what do you do to relax? How do you unstress yourself? And you can't use the dishwashing thing because you already used that.
I mean, I really loved watching TV. Right? Although I see so many quote unquote successful people say that don't
Don't
spend
watch.
time,
Yeah.
don't spend time watching TV and stuff, right? But
Right.
to me, as a guy born and raised in Hong Kong, mainly learning Chinese, mainly learning Chinese culture, I feel like watching TV actually gets me connected to the Western world more. That's why a lot of the jokes, right, that I share with our holders on Discord, I actually learned those jokes from TV, right, including like K drama, including like Western drama, including like stand up comedy. Right? I think by watching TV, I feel like I don't have to put my brain to work so that I can kind of like shut it down, no matter how what are the challenges out there. Right? Because okay, when you just watch TV, you can kind of like numb your mind, and I mean, people feel like that's a bad thing, But when I feel really stressed, I use that as a therapy in a way, right? And then after that 1 hour, I feel okay, and I feel like okay, right now I can regroup and then to work on it again. Right? I don't feel like it's super healthy, right? But somehow it's just it works for me. Yeah.
But what kind of shows are you watching? Are you watching drama or comedy, or what are you watching?
I want something that talks about different like professional jobs or cultures. And basically, I watch all kind of things. Right, stand-up comedy is definitely one of the big category. Right, one of the guys that I really like these days are Matt Rife. Right,
Yeah.
I think introduced by a friend, and also K drama is also pretty good these days. Yeah, in the past I really hated K drama because it's always like cry, right?
Right.
Right now it's like very dramatic, and also the rhythm is very fast. Comparing to a lot of like US show, I think K drama these days is actually way I would say way more exciting. Yeah, so
Okay.
I watch a lot of K dramas. Yeah, and but I think from time to time there are still some good shows. For example, there was one that I'm just watching. It's like Only Murders in the Building. Yeah, I think right now it's on season 3. It's on Disney Plus. I think it's really really good. Yeah, it has like Steve Martin, and then Martin Short, and also Selena Gomez. Yeah, it's just pretty good. Yeah.
Right. So next question is, well, I'm really curious about this because I want to know, what is your biggest failure in life so far? I know that it seems to the outsiders is pretty smooth sailing, but what's the failure that you can share with us, and that what you learn from it, and how do you overcome it? I think that would help others to overcome their failures too.
Yeah, I think Karen, you work at our team, right? So I always kind of like make it open, and I feel like the biggest failure for me in life is definitely the loss of my son. Right? I think, I mean, I feel like I'm responsible to that because he died of flu, right? And at the time, basically. I was sick, right? Before he got sick, right? So there's a good chance that I actually kind of like get him infected, right? So I feel like I was kind of like responsible, right? And but my wife kind of like comfort me that a lot of babies, right? They got flu, right? I mean, a lot of kids they also got flu, right? And but most of them they don't die, right? But it is what it is, right? As I mentioned in the earlier of this show, I feel like that humbles me, right? That also kind of like opened the door for me and also for my wife to Christianity, right? And I think that is a big lesson, right? Because I mean, I was always quite a good student, right? And even though I didn't really study really well at college, right? But after a few years, I founded NIGET, we joined YC, we joined 500 Startups. We were the first company that joined these two accelerator, right? And then I have a pretty good life, right? So I feel like, hey, I'm not on the top of the world, right? But at least I know that I'm top 1% of the world, right? But I think having this experience, makes me feel like, hey, I'm just like a mere mortal, right? I mean, just like 100% like other people. Yeah, no matter how rich or how good or even how young or how old, right? I feel like you can still die. Right? That's why right now when we have our second son, Neo, I think some of our holders met him, yeah, in Hong Kong. Yeah, I actually really think that is a gift on one hand, right? On the other hand, I don't have a lot of expectation for him. I just want him to be healthy and happy, right? And live a meaningful life. Yeah, I know that a lot of parents say that, right? But once their kids are healthy, right, they want more. I want him to study well. I want him to get a good job, right? But for me, I actually don't care about that. I mean, if he is lucky, if I'm lucky, right, he actually doesn't have to work for money, right? That's why I work so hard these days, right? It's not because of me. I mean, I don't spend a lot. And when our holders met me in Hong Kong, they know that I look like almost like a hobo, right? And I think keeping my burn rate low actually can. I don't have to work like quite a lot of years ago, right? But right now, having our son. It's more like work for him, right? Try to also work for his generation, right? To make sure that okay, I do my best to make the future a little bit better, right, than today, right? And I think that's something that kind of like changed my perspective in the priorities in life, right? I would say that I never really overcome it, right? If you ask me whether I'm like sad sometimes, I think at some critical days, right? Of course, I feel sad, right? His birthday is his 12th, it's December, 6th of December, right? So it's coming up, and then it's all. If he were alive, right, then it's like he would be like 5 years old, right? But I think but because of our faith, because of our religion, right? Let's call it religion, right? I feel like I have hope, yeah, in the future. I hope that we can meet again, yeah, and yeah, I wouldn't say overcome it, yeah, but I would say that I learned to live with it, yeah.
Yeah, great. All right, so you mentioned you went to 500 Startups and Y Combinator. These are two of the biggest startup accelerators in the world, based in Silicon Valley. And what you go through is a program, and you meet a lot of mentors, and they give you a lot of advice, good advice and maybe some bad advice, right? So now I think the tables are going to turn. You're mentoring the next generation through this chat with us. So we're going to ask you a bunch of questions on good advice and bad advice. And the first question is, what is your favorite quote or motto, and why?
My favorite quote is actually from a comedian, right? From Steve Martin, right? It's be so good that they can't ignore you. Right? I feel like a lot of people, especially when they are not working at a startup, they always feel like, hey, how come I don't have? How come I was not born in a rich family? Right?
Yeah.
How come I didn't get this chance? Right? How come I was not smart enough? Right? But I feel like this makes themselves feel very powerless, right? And kind of like victimize themselves, right? But my personal learning has taught me that if we do our best, right, be so good, then they can't really ignore you, right? I think even just look at Memeland, right? When we first started, people really didn't give a fuck, right? And then right now, after a little bit over a year, right, we become #1 NFT in Asia, one of the top NFTs in the space. Our token is one of the top tokens in the space. Yeah. So maybe we were not the most shiny object, right, in that category, but full hard work, right, full continue to improve, to iterate, we can actually get better, and people can't ignore you. You can see that more and more so-called influencer, more and more among Web3 people, they started to know more about meme coins, started to know more about Memeland, right? So that's why be so good that they can't ignore you. It's actually my favorite quote. Yeah.
So the next question is like, what is one conventional wisdom that you disagree with? I know you for a long time now. I know that sometimes your opinions are quite unconventional. So I feel like you would have a lot to share about this.
A lot, too many to share, but one.
Yeah. I think like, I mean, there are a lot of like traditional thinking that I feel like is kind of like outdated. Right? I feel like the context has changed a lot. That's why a lot of the old wisdom may not work, right? Of course, a lot of old wisdom still works, right? One of the things that I don't like is one of the ideas that I don't like is what's the term? It's like basically, it's like, okay, failure is the mother of success. Right? I don't know whether this is exactly the English proverb, right? But that's the Chinese proverb, right? And the meaning behind it was, okay, you fail and then you learn and then you get better, right? At startup, at running our own company, at running our own product, I feel like this is totally not true, right? You can fail 100 times. It doesn't mean that you have a better chance to succeed. Yeah. Because I feel like the biggest lessons that we can learn is actually not from failures. The biggest lessons that we can learn is actually from success, from our own success, from other people's success, right? What they did right, right? What we did right. Yeah. For example, if you look at a lot of like failed projects, right? Like NFT projects, no matter how many projects that you learn from, you actually can't make your project better. right? But when you look at the good projects, right, the good team in the space, you can actually learn from what they are doing so that you can get better. It's almost like playing basketball or basically learning anything, right? You learn from the best guys, right? You learn from how they shoot the basketball. You learn from how they kind of like a dribble, right? The football, right? But you don't learn from some failed guy who kind of like kick himself and fell down. No matter how much you learn from that guy, right, you can't really make your skills get better. I feel like this is the wisdom that is more like for comforting, right? To cheer people up instead of the real, I would say, tips, yeah, or the real life hack. Yeah, so I think that this is one of the so-called conventional wisdom that I kind of like disagree. Yeah.
Okay. This next question is the Gary V question. What advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world?
I think by meaning entering the real world, that means that they, after going to school, right,
Yeah.
and then they actually have to work at a job. Right? I feel like there are two things that I would recommend them, not recommend, but more like share with them. I think actually the advice that I would share with them is most advice are overrated. Yeah, I think that would be the first one. Yeah. Why I say that is because whenever you listen, right, or you read some successful like sharing by people, right, even in some famous books and stuff, it feels like it sounds very true, right? But actually, it doesn't work because your condition is different, right? Maybe the job that you want to do is different because your background is different, and maybe where you were born is also different, right? So most of the advice is just not very useful. I remember one of the saying at Y Combinator by one of the partners, right? He was the Paul Bouquet. He was the creator of Gmail. He said that advice is a life experience plus over generalization. Yeah, I mean, most advice that people give is just like their life experience and then kind of like exaggerate a little bit and then say that you should learn from it. Right? And I feel like most of the advice, they are kind of like that. That's why when you get advice from your parents on career, usually that's not very useful because they didn't live in the new age that you're living in. Right? So I feel like that would be the first advice. I mean, you can still listen to them. You still should learn about those advice, but you have to analyze to see whether this is applicable to you. It's almost like in Web3, in crypto. Right? I mean, all those guys, they have all kind of like thesis, right? And then technical analysis, all the charts that they draw, the TA and shit, right? But honestly, most of them suck, right? But those guys, they feel like they were right. So otherwise, they would not be sharing that. Right? So I feel like this would be the first advice. Yeah, or the most important advice that I would share is don't. I mean, most advice are overrated. Don't follow most of them. Yeah, maybe don't follow this one as well.
That's also the next question.
Well,
Yep.
I know that you met a lot of college students because like you usually go to university and like you meet these young people. Like what do I like just on top of this question, like what do you think about this generation that are like coming to the workforce?
Yeah, I mean, I usually go to speak at college, at schools, yeah, because I want to pay it forward. I really feel like children is the future. It sounds like so cliche, right? But I feel like the next generation is always the future. It's almost like a tautology because it's almost like the definition. I think when people get older, they started to feel like, oh, the new generation sucks, right? They forgot that the last generation also said the same to us, right? So I feel like this. I mean, somehow I'm like a contrarian. So I always try to, not always, right? But I do my best, right, to try to argue with the so-called traditional saying, right? So I spend a lot of time, kind of like do some sharings at school, at colleges, at universities, yeah, because I feel like most of the guys who started working, right, if they wanted to start a company, right, they can do that, right, anytime, right? For example, you can just quit the job today and then do it, right? But most of the students, basically, they are still living in a mold that is like set by the so-called adults, right, including their parents, including the school, right? And most of the teachers, they were not like entrepreneurs, right? If they were entrepreneurs, they probably were not good entrepreneurs. Otherwise, they wouldn't become a teacher, right? So I feel like I want to tell students that there are other paths in life. Maybe starting a company, right? Yeah, maybe like joining a big corporation, but at least there is another path, right? Yeah, so that they know that, oh, there's another choice. It's not, oh, I have to study hard, I have to get a good job. If I fail at a good job, then I suck, right? Then my life fails. Right? I want to tell them that there are many ways, right? That's why most of the time I don't mind sharing my so-called failure, because I feel like sharing failures is actually better than sharing success, because success is very personal, but failure is almost like universal, right? I mean, most of the time when your companies suck and fail, basically it's because of similar reasons. Oh, the founders, they kind of like don't get along, and then you run out of money, your strategy sucks, right? So I want to share my failure so that people feel like, okay, Ray is just like a normal guy, right? He probably is not that smart, but somehow if he could do it, why couldn't I? I want I want myself to be an encouragement, not because I have made it, right? It's because I was just a normal guy before I so-called make it. Right? I think that gives people, I would say, more encouragement, right? Than any like cheering works and stuff. Yeah, I remember there was a conference called FailCon, where founders, right, go up to share their failure. Right? I think that story is actually very meaningful. Right? On one hand, it's not about learning from them, but I feel like that gives people a sense that, hey, Elon Musk was like a normal guy, right, before PayPal. Right? A lot of people were like normal guy, not normal, right? I mean,
it's never normal.
as in his group, right? I mean, they were. I mean, I think most of the time the encouragement needs to come from, okay, if I were a nerd, right, I got discriminated in my class, right, I got bullied, right. I think those guys they give you like encouragement, because when you look at like Vitalik, right, is he one of the leaders in Web3, but if in a normal corporate job, he probably couldn't get into the first round of interview, right. So I feel like all this kind of stuff is something that I want to share with students, yeah. And I feel like, yeah, they will still be able to change their mind. Right? I just want to plant the seed. Right? Meanwhile, for all the guys who are already working, right? I mean, I think the hope is lost already. Yeah, I mean, if you want to change, you will change it. Yeah.
Okay, well, now we're going into Web3 stuff. So I kind of know about this story, but I guess like people also want to know like what got you into Web3 and what made you, think about like, oh, doing for 9gag for 15, 14 years. Like what gets you into the Web3 space?
I started to know about cryptocurrency, right, in 2018. Right? At that time, I don't think Web3 was a term. Right? I started to know about that because ICO and stuff were really hot. Right? I think a lot of people come to 9gag to say that, hey, Ray, you guys should launch a GetCoin or something. Right? I mean, make some money, right? And then say some bullshit, right? And that's it, right? Then you make it, right? But at the time, I started to learn more about it, and then I tried to I talked to one of the founders of Dogecoin, right, to see why he left, right, Dogecoin at the time, right, and I also tried to learn how to use a MetaMask. It's like totally it's so unusable, yeah, and that's why I feel like, okay, this probably sucks, right? So I didn't, no matter what the price is, and I just kind of like ignore it. Yeah, especially when I study law, and also my wife, she was working at compliance at a private bank. So most of the ICO feels very legally unsafe, right? That's why we didn't do it. Yeah, I started to actually care more about crypto. I think it's around like year 2020, right? I mean, like three years ago, around 3 to 4 years ago. Right? At the time, China and US, they were having like a lot of like trade wars and stuff like that, right? At the time, then I feel like, shit, what if suddenly US and other Western countries, right? They started to feel like, okay, Hong Kong, although it's part of China, right? But Hong Kong always enjoy a special status, right? So it's like part of China, but financially, right? It's kind of like another system. Right? What if they suddenly ban all the banks, right? And also stop all the companies, right? Trading and stuff, right? Then maybe that will make kind of like affect our livelihood, affect our livings, right? So that I wanted to open an overseas account, right? At the time, an overseas banking account, but it took like 6 months, and then the application is still not yet past the first stage because so many people tried to open an account at that moment. Yeah, and then one of my friend who also taught me kind of like about Web3, what Web3 is, right? Asked me, hey Ray, why don't you just create a crypto wallet, right? At the time, he asked me to use a wallet called Argent, ARGENT. It's kind of like a very simple app, almost like the Pay Me app in Hong Kong, almost like Venom in the US. It's like a very simple and quite well designed app. Right, and you can use credit card to buy crypto. Right, at the time, a stable coin was already a thing. Right, so you can just convert your USD into like USDC. Right, so I started to do it. Yeah, and the moment that I do it, I feel like shit. Right now, if I have to send, before that, if I have to send money to a company outside of Hong Kong, I have to get all the information from that company, and I fill in all the information on the e-banking website, and then I have to wait for 3 days, right? If it's like Saturday and Sunday, basically, you have to wait the full 3 days, right? So it kind of sucks. The experience always kind of sucks, right? But on crypto, as long as you get the address and get a correct one, you click send, maybe you pay a little bit gas, and then the other party, they can receive it in like 15 seconds, right? That was like mind-blowing to me. Right, I feel like, hey, if this is the future, I want to live in it. Right, I don't think we can ever go back to wait for like 3 days for the amounts to be sent. Right, yeah. So that got me into Web3, and then of course after the DeFi summer, and then I've started to learn more about NFT. Started to learn more about what exactly can we apply blockchain tech, right, into like social media, right, and yeah. That's other part is just history. Yeah.
Okay, so from there, you have some crypto in your wallet. You probably bought some Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now you hear about NFTs in, I guess, 2020, 2021. What is the first NFT you bought? And then what is the first NFT you bought that you said, oh, I get this now, and this is something I want to do or be part of?
I was like a late boomer, right, in NFT, right? And I remember I bought my first crypto, right, using my quote unquote fiat money, right, real money, right, quote unquote real money, right. It's like June. I actually remember the day. Yeah, it's June 11th in 2020. Yeah, I remember that day because it's like a birthday of a friend or something like that. Yeah, and I actually used credit card to pay, and I was like, shit, buying crypto was so easy, right? The gas is very high, but it's so easy, right? I remember Ethereum was like $200 at the time. Yeah, and that's why I kind of like experience at least one bull run, right, where ETH goes up to like $4,000, right? $200 to $4,000. That's like
right.
How many X? Like 20X, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like more than not as good as like meme coin, right? But anyway, I don't talk about
soon though.
we don't talk about money. Yeah, but but I only buy a lot of like cryptos back then. I started to read more about white paper. I'm like one of the few guys that actually read the white papers. So I try to learn more about what they do, right? And I dabble into a lot of like different cryptos and stuff. Actually, I didn't buy Bitcoin until maybe like 6 months later, because Argent was like a ERC wallet. Yeah, it doesn't allow you to buy Bitcoin. You can only buy WBTC, where I didn't feel safe at the time. Right? That's why I didn't buy. Yeah, so that was like I spent quite a lot of time to buy a lot of crypto and stuff. Right, that means I got exposed to like Luna, right, and then UST, and then FTX, and then also I buy a lot of like Atom. That's why I was quite learning quite a lot about the Cosmos ecosystem as well. Yeah, because I feel like the vision kind of makes sense to me, where multi-chain future. Yeah, so I think that's my exposure in cryptocurrency. right? Until like 2022, that means almost like 1.5 years later, right? January 17, I bought my first NFT because I feel like at the time, I finally understand the value of NFT. Right? That was about, I think, a few weeks or a few months after like Twitter, that means X, started to support NFT as the profile picture. Right? At that moment, I was like, shit, this is powerful, right? Because even though you buy a Lambo, right, you can't flex it to people online. Right? Maybe you take a picture, right? But I can go to your Lambo, right, and then take a picture next to your Lambo. Right? That's what a lot of like jokes
Yeah.
on YouTube, right? But buying an NFT, the simplest reason is you can flex it online, right, to millions of people, right? And even though you are like a whale in crypto, you can't flex your wallet every single day, right? People will feel like you are a douchebag, right? But you flex a Bored Ape, you flex another NFT, right? People actually feel like, oh, this guy has taste, right? You are part of the community, right? That was the moment that I feel like, oh shit, NFT is so powerful. Yeah, that's why I bought my first NFT, which is a Bored Ape, 4624. Yeah, I remember that, right? Because four times six equals like 24, right? So I remember that number, and also like kind of like the simplicity of that Bored Ape. Yeah, I spent like 99 ETH. Yeah, almost like 100 ETH to buy that. Actually, bought it from like Bobby Hundreds. Yeah, I didn't know who he is at the time. Yeah, but I bought it at that price. I think it's like 200K US dollars at the time. I thought like shit. If I want to learn, if I want to get into NFT, of course I buy the most expensive one, right? But turns out, I mean, when I think this is something about community is when you are kind of like late, right? Actually, it's very hard for you to learn a lot from that community. Yeah, because they're already very established at the time, right? That's why. But that opens the rabbit hole for me because I keep buying a lot of NFT. I think I spend like 2,000 ETH, 3,000 ETH to buy NFT, right? And most of, I mean, I feel like I sold less than fewer than like 10 NFTs. Yeah, because on one hand, I try to learn from different communities, right? On the other hand, is I don't feel like that's something that I care too much. Yeah, and of course I was down bad, and I am down bad. Not was, right? I am still am down bad. Yeah, but I think that was a fun experience, and I feel like after that, I actually feel like NFT would be the entrance, would be the gateway for the masses to enter into Web3, because most people who buy crypto, right, they are just for speculation. Oh, the price goes up, the price go down. But for people who buy NFT, they actually, other than the profit reason, right, they actually buy for the community, maybe for the artwork, right, maybe for other use cases. So I feel like NFT actually opens a way bigger world, right, than crypto. Yeah, because NFT is still very visualized, right, comparing to numbers on chain. Yeah, so that was my first experience in NFT and in crypto.
Do you still have that Bored Ape?
Yeah, I didn't sell it. Yeah, I mean,
You're lucky.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it was not my personality, right? It's not my character online, right? But I feel like, okay, this is like a good NFT for memories, right? Yeah. It's almost like you never forget your first girlfriend, kind of like that, right? I mean, I forgot it already, yeah, but kind of like that, yeah.
Not a lot of
my
people
wife
can
is not listening to it. Yeah, so it's fine.
yeah, not a lot of people can do like a 200K memory.
Memory, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean it's true, right? I think that's why there were a lot of memes about, hey, if your PFP is not worth more than 100K, right, then you should not talk to me, right? Yeah, I think that was a meme in crypto Twitter. Some it's actually maybe like a year ago, 2 years ago. It's not that long ago, right? But it feels like decades ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it does, like, because like the first time when we talk about like, hey, maybe we should start looking into Web3 for our company, that was almost like 2.5 years ago. And like it seems like a long time, like to me, like now looking back, it was a very different time, a very different community back then when we first started. So now we're focusing now, what are you working on right now that is exciting that you can share with us?
I mean, when you look back on the time, right, that I just mentioned, It's actually I started to get into crypto, right? Quite more seriously, like less than 3 years ago, right? We launched our own project, own product, own company, right? About like less than 2 years ago, right? But right now we're already one of the top companies in the space, right? That shows. I mean, that doesn't show that how smart we are, right? That actually shows that how early the space is, right? As long as you have good experience in operating in building product, right, you actually have a lot of chances, right? I mean, that's something that I want to add before I share what we are doing right now, right? For people, I mean, I assume most of the people who listen to GM show, they know what Memeland is, they know what MemeCon is, right? But I feel like this would be a good question, right, for our future guests, right, so that they can share with our listeners, our audience, what they are working on. Right. For us, right now, there are that was the PENIS, right? The strategic like focus, right, of what we are doing right now. Right. I mean, personally, I spend more time on the product side, right, so that I talk to like different DeFi people, understanding what they think about the products that we're building. Right. I also work with our product teams a lot, right, on GM and also on Stickland, right, to see whether that makes sense, right, for Web3 audience, but also for Web2 audience. Yeah, because our team is very unique in a way. Most of our teammates, they are not very Web3. Right? I would say that maybe like 20% of our team is very degen, maybe less than that, but 80% is like very normal Web2 people. Yeah. So how can we make sure that we are building product on one hand for Web3, but also for Web2? Yeah. So that's something that I work on every day. Yeah.
Okay, but is there anything? Okay, so here's I guess the last question I'm going to ask you. I just added this in now, so maybe you don't have an answer right away for it. But I feel like one of the things I want this new format to do is kind of educate people who are not in this Web3. So, and I feel like I'm always combating, and I'm sure you are, people who have different misconceptions. CZ is now, looks like he's, a bad guy, but I feel like he's taking there's more to it than that. But when you read in the news, it looks like you've just caught another crypto person. What do you think what is the one misconception in Web3 that you want people to understand is not true? That you've learned over this time as well, right?
I truly think that crypto is not Web3 is not all Ponzi. I think a lot of people say that it's all Ponzi. Even people who are active in Web3, they keep saying that it's Ponzi. I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost like you want people to join the game, but you keep saying that this game sucks, right? I think this doesn't make sense, right? And honestly, when you look at the structure of Web3, if you say Web3 is all Ponzi, then basically the whole capitalism is all Ponzi.
Right.
Maybe you are right? But what's the other way around, right? The other way around is maybe like communism, right? It's not something that works so far in history, right? I think ideology-wise, I think it kind of makes sense, but in real world, it doesn't make sense, right? It never really worked, right? Look at Cuba, right? Look at USSR, right? It didn't work, right? Yeah. And I feel like stop saying that it's all Ponzi, right? I feel like Web3, the key work is aligned incentive, right? I mean, people talk about AI all the time, right? But I feel like other than artificial intelligence, I think another AI, which is like aligned incentive, is actually very important in Web3. In the past, or not in the past, right? In Web2, right? You are a participant in all the big platforms, right? You actually don't get much, right? But in Web3, if you are early, you can get more not because it is a Ponzi, but because you can contribute to the ecosystem so that the team, the project, right, the product is willing to reward you. Yeah, so that to make it like a fairer ground, right, to build the product together, right? So I feel like this is not all Ponzi, right? I mean, maybe there are a lot of like Ponzi projects in Web3, but when you look at a lot of the good teams, what they're building it actually helps to get back the power from the big players, right? and give the power back to the valuable participants in the ecosystem. Yeah, I feel like I think that's one of the misconception, because when people say that Web3 is all Ponzi, Web3 is all scam, why would anyone join it, right? But the thing is, I'm not surprised, right? because most people, they don't understand new trend, right? If a new trend is easily understood by all people, right, then it would not be a niche, it would not be a new thing, it would not be revolutionary enough, right? But I feel like stop saying that is all Ponzi, right? Try to look up in the dictionary what's the definition of Ponzi. Right? I think that is different from what you think what it is. Right? I think giving incentive to the earlier guys and giving for the later guys to have lower incentive is not a Ponzi. Right? Ponzi means that you use the earlier money, right, to create a fake like economy and stuff like that. That is the Ponzi. Right? So I feel like a lot of people don't know a lot of works, but they keep saying that those works, but those works are bad works, so that a lot of people who don't understand shit, right, they get afraid and then they don't join, and then they just say, oh, this is all Ponzi, right? So somehow, I think this is a bad thing, and this is also one of the biggest misconception, right? So, yeah, that's what I think.
Great, that's a great way to end it. Thank you for your time, Ray. It was great. That was great and very insightful.
Yep. I hope this is a good format, right? That people like, right? I think if please leave a comment, right? In our space link, right? So that we know, what questions you like, what are the things that you like, right? Then we can keep polishing it, right? Ideally, we can make this content valuable to our listener, even if they come back to listen to it like a year later, right? When they first discover like GM show, right? Because I feel like most of the show in the space, it only talks about price, right? It only talks about what to buy, right? What to trade, right? I feel like after like one day, even like 5 hours, it's not very meaningful, right? But I feel like all these questions that we just discussed, right? Hopefully, maybe one or two of them can give you some inspiration, can give you some food for thought, right? Yeah. Then it serves its purpose, right? I feel like this is a better way to build for the long term. And I think in Web3, we need to think about the long term more. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. Great.
Thank you, Ray. So that's our new format. We are still going to be on Thursday, 9 a.m. Hong Kong time next week. And we will have another interesting personality that will answer all these questions. And maybe you can get to know another builder well. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Perfect.